Okay, so let's get started. I'm going to, for my practice here, go through and try to answer question number 1 for you, and then create a video so you can see sort of problem-solving ideas. Let's just go through this problem. For each of the problems below, you must begin your solution with a force diagram. Why would we want to do that? Well, the first reason is so we can sort of set up the problem and have some ideas of what the result ought to look like, and a force diagram can help us do that. So in this problem, we have a 4,600 kilogram helicopter, and it accelerates upwards at 2 meters per second squared. What lift force is exerted by the air on the propellers? Okay, so my force diagram will always begin with my dot, which in this case represents a helicopter, a 4,600 kilogram helicopter, and it of course has the force of gravity, as do most things. So we have the force of gravity on our helicopter, and that force of gravity of course will equal 46,000 newtons, because the force of gravity is going to be 10 times, because there's 10 newtons per kilogram of my mass. So I have the force of gravity, and because my helicopter is accelerating upwards at 2 meters per second squared, it means that the force of the lift of the air pushing that helicopter up must be greater than the force of gravity, or else it would either be staying still in the air, or it would be sitting on the ground, or it would be accelerating downward. So we'll call this the force. I'm just going to use a little L to show it the force of the lift of the air pushing those helicopter blades upwards. Okay, very good. Next step is to determine what is my net force. And I know that my force net will of course in the end be equal to the force gravity plus force of the lift of the blades. I also know that my force net will be equal to the mass times the acceleration, and that will be equal to 4,600 kilograms times 2 meters per second squared, and that equals 9,200 newtons. So my overall net force is 9,200 newtons in the positive direction. Good. Next question is, since I know my net force here is 9,200 newtons, I also know my force of gravity is 46,000 newtons, and of course that's going to be negative 46,000 newtons because it's in the down direction in the on the y-axis. I can now determine my lift force, and so F lift will be equal to F net minus Fg. So equals 9,200 newtons minus the negative 46,000 newtons. And so my overall force of the lift will be equal to 55,200 newtons. Now let's just check to see if that looks right. So the force of the lift is 55,200 newtons. I go back over here to the lift, and if this is 55,200 newtons, the force of gravity is only 46,000 newtons. Sure enough, my helicopter ought to be accelerating in the upward direction. So I can be pretty certain that this is a correct answer. Very good.